Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our SCOME fourth webinar for the day. I'm glad that you have been following up with all the past webinars. So I'm really excited for this one. Our webinar today will be about advocacy in medical education. And I am Ubadan Hawi, and I am the IFMSA-Jo Nomi. And we have with us like a really special person. He is like she is the most excited person. She's on fire, and she will give you like all the inspiring for better and for better advocacy and for better campaigning. So welcome with me, Miss Katarina, Vascomi RA from Europe.
Hi, I think Albada described me uh, very kindly. But yeah, I'm Catarina, I'm from Portugal, and I'm the RA for Europe. And yes, I've been advocating a little bit on a local level, a national level as well. And I've been very keenly trying to that my animals in Europe start advocating as well. So I'm excited to be here.
Okay, cool. So, as we said today, so as I said today, our webinar is about advocacy in medical education, and we would love me and Katarina to answer a question that is common to everyone, and it's why advocacy and why it can be important for medical education. So I'm going to give the floor to Katarina to answer this.
Okay, so basically, I think we should start by asking why advocacy, because basically, um, if we're talking about SCOME, and we usually talk about SCOME and we talk about improving medical education, and we think about all these crazy activities that we can do to complement the medical curriculum. But I think the ultimate goal of our activities usually is when they are implemented in the curriculum. To do that, we need to advocate. If we want to improve the curriculum and change something, I think the way to do it is to talk to the teachers, talk to the faculty, talk to administrative services, and tell them that this is something worth fighting for. So I would say that that's why we advocate, and also because we as students, usually we say yes, we're students, so we're representing all of us. But for representing, we need to first agree on what are we standing for, stand and in one voice, and talk to everyone in the same voice. So yes, I think that's why it's important to advocate in medical education. um, in one quick example, if Avada allows me, um, in the US, the global health education that now we hear so on, so on, so on, it started because a group of students in the US decided to say, no, global health is important because we have migration, we have this global village that we so like to call, but we know we continue to address only the diseases on a local scale and everything. So we need to address that. And so students actually started that movement just by saying we stand by this, and we're going to talk to everyone interested to tell you that this is important. And I think that that is the best example of what advocacy can be.
Okay, thank you, Katerina. That was an amazing. And you think you are a step away ahead of me. Okay, for me, for some reason, why advocacy and why is it important for medical education? For me, I feel that advocacy it's a skill that should be applied to all students, not only to medical students. Like anyone should have the advocacy power. You can advocate for many good causes, and you can help many others. And for medical education, it help you to reach out your goals with let's say more or less of effort and more of a great impact. And also you will get the support whenever you're feeling down, or whenever you face a problem. You will find the supporters and your allies, so they can help you alongside the campaign. And one of that example, what happens here in Jordan, which is the elective period. For us, the elective period is only certain for 2 months of the year. And many students, they don't have that much opportunity to travel during these 2 months, as it will has higher applicants from foreigners from the US, UK, from everywhere in the countries. So they decided that it's better off to be like for the whole year and not only for these 2 months. So students from all the batches gathered up. They explained well what's the benefit of that, and how much of the students that have get the opportunity to be in contact with higher universities for their elective periods. And we were in contact with our deanships, with our Ministry of Education, and we were campaigning and we were protesting. Uh, and eventually, during 3 weeks, they have succeeded, and they get what they want for their medical education. And now every one of them, they are doing various families in the United States. Okay, so moving on with, you know now what inspire us for advocacy and why we want to learn about advocacy. But the most important thing is how you are going to be an advocate, an effective advocate. And that's what Katerina will tell you more. So pay attention, these lessons for life.
So I think both me and Obada described about representing interests and making our voices heard. But the thing is, when we are students, and I don't know any student, and especially any medical student, who doesn't complain. And we complain about a class that doesn't make really much sense. We can complain about that exam that's so theoretical that you absolutely didn't learn a single thing. And we complain and we complain and we complain. So I think moving from complaining to actually producing a change and actually wanting something else is finding what is our contribute. So first, gathering all the information available, and that is the first step. And to be a good advocate is you have to know everything about that course you want to change, that idea that you think that should be implemented. You learn and you learn and you learn. You gather all the information that you set up for goals. So it's not just saying, "Oh, this is bad." It's saying, "This is bad. I know that there's some three or four ways to do this differently, and I know how to get there." So not only you understood that there is a problem, but you also found out the possible solutions for it. So be prepared and gather all the information you can. Set yourself some goals and find out the solutions that you have for that problem, and then go to everyone. And when I say everyone, I'm not saying just the people that will agree with you. Those are easy. If they will agree with you, you just have to present them their case to them. You also have to go to the people that disagree with you, and you have to go to the people that you don't know where they stand, but in some way they have some interest in what you are advocating for. And you go to them and you present the most clear and concrete message. What do you want? Because usually when we advocate, it's easy to say we want a lot of things, but sometimes people who are not expecting us to advocate say, "Okay, but what do they really want?" And that's where your message has to be clear and concrete. That's where you have to listen, not only to those who agree with you, but those who don't agree with you. And you have to keep on track. So if something changes, if there's new information, gather it. If there's a person that has a different position than yours, go to them and listen to them and talk to them and understand them. And do this all, keep in mind all of this in the process, because this is not just, "Okay, I did my homework and now I'm going out and it's done." No, because things are always changing and people's perception are always changing. When you send out your message, you have to understand, what did people listen about your messages? Did your message was so clear that people understood exactly what you wanted? or even those who agree with you didn't like the way that you send out the message. You always have to monitor what you're doing and keep track. So, to sum up a very this first conversation, I would say be prepared, find out what your message is and make it as clear as possible, and keep track of what you have been doing, keep track of what the other people are thinking of your message, and how can you make it as clear and possible to reach your goal. I think I can give the floor to you, Robada.
Okay, thank you, Kat. That was amazing, actually. That's something new I should add up to my work. Okay, moving on. You know now what are the secret methods on how to be an advocate, as Kat were saying. The main question here: do you know what advocacy means in the beginning? Well, the advocacy is some kind of activity. Could be done by individual or group, and it's aiming to influence, as we said, it's not only for medical, it can be to influence decision with political, economical, social systems, some organization, institutions, uh, any anything that we want a big influence on. So the advocacy can include many activities that a person or a group of people or organization can do. One of them, whether we saying as a media campaigns, which is mostly used these days, and it it found like a huge impact as many people using now technology, social media, and even websites. I never get to know, maybe because I'm old enough. Public speaking, and commissioning and publishing researches, conducting, whether on, like, let's say during one kind of conferences or during delivering messages through the UN, through official meetings and regional meetings. And another form of advocacy is by doing protest and by signing a situation where they can present it to the stakeholders or to the people who want to influence their decisions. So the advocacy is all about like speaking the truth and the truth to power, and giving the, as we said, the students the voice about the issues that affect them, building more of connection and evidence on what needs to change and how we can change it and how we can make it happen. And always we are looking for positive changes towards better communication, better society, and towards greater justice and equity for each other. Influencing people who are with power and changing how they think and how they act, and it's possible. So the advocacy starts with this cycle. It's 6 steps. So the first step is identifying the problem. As we said, what is the real cause of the situation? Why do you want others want to try to change this thing? Could the situation be changed through advocacy, and will it work? Like sometimes what we want to reach and what we want to achieve, advocacy is not the best thing to achieve it through, but it could help us on another step or through a long way. The second thing, after you identify the problem, you gather the information. Like as we said, you before you advocate, you have to be familiar with the issue that you are advocating thing. And here where you're building the evidence about the situation, and you involve making visits, talking with both sides, and maybe carrying out a research and looking for the details of whether the problems, what are the solutions, and most importantly, like who are the target groups of that you want to help during this campaign. The opportunity for influencing the targets, supporters, and who are the opponents, the risks and the advantages, like what risk that involve some kind of action is taken or not taking, what the advantages might there be in taking action, All these have to be considered when you are gathering the information. Uh, like you have to study and make a case, and you have to be all pumped up with the information. So when you face who are influencing the decision, you face them, like as we said, with power and with confidence. The third step is to make a decision. After gathering the information, here the decision needs to be made about whether or not to take an action. Can you really help to change the situation? Do you really understand all that involved? Are you clear about the targeted and to making the change? And we found these like problems during our medical education. Like most of the students, either they complain, but they don't really know what the situation is. Does their medical students work on this issue? Does actions really happen, and we could change these things? Is there any possible solution really found, or this is the best thing that we have figured out? So sometimes students they complain, but they don't really know more much about medical education issues in the first place. So when they opponent or when they want to influence the decision of their deans or the stakeholders, they don't have that strong argument. So they need to be equipped with knowledge as well. And the fourth one of the cycle is to plan. You already have taken your decision, whether you made it or not. Now you move up with the plan, like what you should include, like the main problem, the objectives of your advocacy, uh, the people who are going to help you to change the situation, and most importantly, they will be the target group. And in this case, in our medical education, which are the medical students, what kind of methods? uh, what should be starting? As we said, we have many activities during the advocacy. So we could start with media campaigns, or we can start with research, building research and evidence, or we can start with public speaking. We can target our supporters or certain decision makers, like to break them to the idea and to get them to your side. So all these have need to be planned, like and the time. Will you do this for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year? Like what's your time schedule for this campaign? The possible risk, like if you do it, what the major risk that you will follow, and you might end up with nothing in most of the times. The responsibilities, you can't do it by your own, so you have to be with a team and with a group of people who are willing to take responsibilities. Moreover, and you need to measure the success. Like you started with 1, 2, 3 people, now you end up with more people. Is there any relevant changes happening in medical education in your faculty? Whether was even, how we say it, even a glimpse of good things. Okay, so the fifth thing is to take the action, which is the implementation part of your plan. And your direct influences, like you start lobbying and the campaigning and all the media work and all this implementation. uh, and and the last thing is to reevaluate, so you know if you reach your goal of the campaign, or you should some objectives have turned out, and you're already moving on for more better and for more issues that already facing in our medical education. So I believe these are the 6 steps of a cycle that you have to take into consideration when you're making up your mind, whether I should go to advocate for this thing or not, and what are the risk and beneficiency and the success rates of going into this advocacy steps. Now moving to Katarina. So we will discuss more in depth now who are the stakeholders in medical education, and what can we advocate for. So,
Okay,
Kat,
so on the I'm here. I didn't leave. So yes, I think Abada gave us a very good overview of uh, now that we have our message, now that we think that we know what are the persons that we want to approach, then we go step by step until we take action and we actually represent our interests because that's what advocacy is all about. So the first thing, and I told you, it's not only about the ones that interest you, that will agree with you, but also those who don't agree with you. It is identified in the stakeholders. And the stakeholders, it's just like the name itself says, they hold stake in the game. So everyone who has an interest or power is a stakeholder. So this is the green pen, and this is the green pen, and this is like the power, and this is the interest, which is the green one. So, who do you think that has so much interest in changing medical education, but usually not so much power? Maybe I would put like here the students. Yeah, like put my finger, it's better. So here would be the students. But the thing is, if you can gather a lot of students and if you can really make them interested about what you are working on, and if you can really make them understand that this is worth fighting for, their power goes to here because there will be many. And when we are all together for fighting for the same thing, we can actually make a change and we can actually improve our own ability to have power. So yes, students are one, but you don't have only students. And usually, when students are here, there is a dean or the professors here. But in medical education, not only deans and professors are stakeholders. For example, I'm just going to work on my battery because it's my phone is dying. But yeah, but I'm here still. Don't worry. But usually the faculty, the dean, the teachers also hold the stake and have a lot of power. If you want to change a course, usually the teacher is the one who has most power, and so on and so on. So the teachers are also very important as well as the dean. And we sometimes have to acknowledge that these can be two different um, people in a way that they hold different interests. For example, a dean will be more interested in the overall work of the medical school, and will be more interested in helping you out. Well, whether as the teachers may be only interested in their own course, so they will not, for example, understand what do you mean by integrated curriculum. Just they maybe they will think, oh, they just don't want me to teach anymore or something like that. So maybe they won't see the bigger picture and so on. We have teens, we have teachers, but we also have patients, and we sometimes not don't acknowledge that medical education is also about the patients, and they are extremely good stakeholders. If you say that you have too many medical students in your medical school, and you say that you cannot learn sufficiently because you are 14 students in a class, but then you say no, we're not 14 students in a class, we're 14 students around a patient, and that patient has to go through 14 students, 28 eyes, and 3 or 4 people touching them, which is not very pleasant. So maybe if we acknowledge patients as also stakeholders in medical education and we advocate reasonably within this community, it would be also useful. Ministries and governments are also a solution depending on the level of engagement that you want to have, level of change you want to have. So I would say this is a nutshell. But of course, you also have like the professional associations, the student organizations, because yes, we are a student organization. Most of us are in some kind of student organization, but there are others parallel. And there are groups of people, and those groups of people are mobilized, and we also can acknowledge that. If there's a singing group in your medical school, they are 40 people that communicate well with each other. So if you get that those 40 people to talk to one, at least one of their friends each, you get 80 people to join your movement, join whatever it is that you're interested in representing. So I think acknowledging that in every community you have different groups and different powers and different interests, it's a good way to start mapping out your stakeholders. And then the other question is, what can we advocate for? And I think I spoiled most of that by my examples, but you advocate for the simplest thing is, okay, I really don't understand why it has to be 100% of oral examination in a course where I study throughout the semester. So you advocate to have 10% or 20% of continuous evaluation. You can advocate for that, or you can advocate for that good example that Obada told us about students being able to take the USMLE. So something that big that involves like governments and other stakeholders and such. I think what we can advocate for, it comes to the power of your imagination, the work that you're willing to take on. But I think that what we see when we go to IFMC meetings and when we meet people from all over the world is that there is no limit for what we can advocate for, right? I think from the changing of the simplest course to changing the whole medical curriculum and changing the access to specialty and so on, you have all these things that you can do. So it only comes down to what you really want to change, and what are your goals and what is the solution that you find to implement. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like I feel inspired now, even in middle of exams. So thank you, Kat, for that. Uh, yes, as Kat said, is there's nothing like limited to you to advocate for. It's all about, as we said from the beginning, it's about the interest that you want to read. So maybe you have interest like my lecturers are too old and they lack the experience. So you want to work on that. My faculty does not use technology anymore, so you work on that. So there's many different ways and many different things that you can advocate for, but it's all about your target group and what are the interests of your medical students and the interests of these target groups that we want to achieve by a certain period of time, of course, because you will get many people during the way, and when you get many people, sometimes you find like many interests. So you need to make sure what is the biggest interest of these all targeted groups. So you work on it. And one thing about the stakeholders, Kat has mentioned it all. Just a few things like you need to focus on the needs of other parties. Sometimes when you're talking to stakeholders, they might get you wrong, as Kat said, and so you need to make a clear idea about what you are really doing and what you are really hoping of them, and how is that going to change not only you for better but for them as well. So it's sometimes it's good like to explain them the positive changes and positive things that they are going to get from this, and you need to argue your case with logics. So do research, work on your ideas. You will find a very resistance and competition in the start when you are talking to stakeholders. So make sure you don't lose your motivation, and keep it up. You get back, you do your research, and then move on with a stronger argument. And always start with the positive things. You don't say that our medical education is so wrong and we have this and this and this. But however, you can say you have provided us with a lot, and it's an excellent thing over these past years since 19 something. But we are looking for more, and here where we can work together to change. So it's always a good thing. And also compliments. I think they take compliments as a strong thing that you can add up to stakeholders, where they might even support you, and they will accept your ideas more easily. If they did not, after all this hard work, then you have you have to work on it repeatedly. As these people, sometimes it's not their decision, but you have to look up for the other stakeholders who are taking control of them. So you need to work on both sides. Uh, and other than that, I think I hope we delivered the message about what's advocacy, why do we think it's important, and how can it be used in medical education. The tips that give you cat about how to be an effective advocate. So make sure we are going to post some summary for you guys in the links, and will be shared with you so you can remember. Uh, and the cycle of advocacy, like you have to identify the problem, the interest of your target group, you have to gather the information and do your research, and you need like to plan and to take action and make decision and then reevaluate for all this to happen. So I hope you have loved this. We need open for question now if we have. Okay. Any questions? Okay, for some reason I can't see the questions.
Okay, so while you look for the questions, I would just like to compliment one thing, complete one thing that you said is about the compliments.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is about the compliments because it's also acknowledging that the other part of the interest is not doing things just because they want to. They believe in them. So why are they believing it, and what are they doing positive? And the compliment, it doesn't have to be something fake. It's exactly the opposite. It's finding what they're doing that is so good, and working for that and working on the positive that they are doing. Um, it's about understanding where they come from, not only your allies, but also the ones that usually position in a way that you feel that they're against you, but sometimes they just have a different reasoning than you. And if you understand that reasoning, maybe you can get to a consensus with you. So I think that would be a good addition to what you just said about them. Have you found the questions yet?
The thing is, I think I have some questions, but I'm using my personal email.
What? Obada? Obada?
Okay, so from you can do research for. So you need to limit the and with no professional guarantee, issues and topics that you can advocate for. Reach cat.
I'm hearing you with I'm not hearing you that well. So that what was your question? Bada? 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 Can you hear me?
Us in okay.
Hey, can you hear me now? Mm-hmm. Can you hear me now? Yes. Um, Bada? Can you hear me now? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So I'm sorry. Apparently, only Obada cannot hear me, but you can. So I'm just going to talk to you, and hopefully Obada will hear me as well. Um, so you asked how can you mobilize students, uh, and this goes to every advocacy movement. The movement is that you need to create a momentum, and or you need to take on a momentum that already exists. So, for example, if there is going to be a change in an exam or a proceeding, that's an awesome moment that you can mobilize students because people are all automatically interested in. But as I started by saying, people always complain. So you can mobilize students by their complaints and you can understand what is the ticking thing that they have, so you can grab it and you can um, potentialize it. If they are criticizing a course because of an evaluation method, you have to raise their attention that it's not just that evaluation method, but the whole evaluation. So I think that would be a good way to mobilize students is understand what are the struggles they are facing and try to explain that these struggles have a root and try to inform people, because when people are informed, people will want to advocate for a better change. So that was one of the questions. And then Matt, is the most effective way to reach, what is the most effective way to reach and mobilize students? I would say that hear them out, inform them, and empower them. You can do it by trainings, you can do it by conferences, by talks, you can hand out flyers, you can just be in a cafe and talk to them. So, yes, do that. Hannah, do you have any advice on to start advocacy activities in your NMO if those things have never been done before? Um, yes, I think if those, I think starting from the premise that things have never been done before, maybe you haven't done it in a traditional way where you say, okay, I will start an advocacy campaign. But have you ever approached a teacher and saying this can be could be done in a different way or this could be done better? I think that is a way to start. So if things have never been done before, maybe this is a very good way, an opportunity for you to see the problems that you have and actually see what is the priority now to fix or to change or to improve, and look at those priorities and figure out a way to change it. Again, inform yourself about the problem, find possible solutions, find who are the people that you have to talk to, and create the momentum to change things. So if, for example, your school is being accredited, that's a really good way of changing. If you're at the end of your school year, maybe making a report with all the students' observations, comments, complaints, and then going one by one to every teacher and saying, see, I've wrote this report, have done my work, and I found out these possible solutions. What do you think about them? And you discuss that. I think one interesting way of doing it is certainly doing that. Um, and so that would be a good way. If you want to start in your NMO, it's the same thing. So, what are the problems that you are facing in your NMO at the national level? Who are the stakeholders? I think to gain credibility and to gain powerful partners, usually medical professionals associations, like the Doctors' Council, um, the Interns' Council, where you go there and you actually talk to them and think, and they will help you network, and they will not help you understand what is the best step next. So partner up with those people, define what is the problem that you want to tackle, and figure out the solutions. And I think we always wound up to the same things, but they are actually what guide us to do a good advocacy work. So I don't know if you have any questions. I'm going to check it. Um, um, Obada, I think I'm here alone. So uh, Obada is telling me that I've answered all the questions. I hope I've answered them clearly. If not, please tell me. Um, okay. Um, okay. Um, if you have any other question, I think Obada is keeping track of your questions, so just ask. Uh, yeah. And yeah, I hope I've been clear. Okay. Well, so our host just left us. That's what we have to say now. Obada just came in, and I'm hearing something. So I hope, hopefully, he can join. Yay! Hi,
Yay!
Obada.
At the end, but
Okay, I hear
unfortunately.
you. I
Okay, so have we answered
don't
all the
know.
questions?
Um, hmm? Obada, we lost you again, I think. Obada,
I'm saying that
what?
have you answered all the questions?
Yes, I hope I've been clear. I try to come up with some answers. If they want some more concrete examples, they just put in the comments like, okay, I have this problem. What do you think that we should do? And we can brainstorm your solutions. But if not, I've done the abstract answering. Yes.
Yes, it has been a pleasure to have you, Kat. You saved us a lot, and you give us always these tips and these moving quotes and even much greater examples that give us a clear idea about advocacy since it's a heavy topic. So I hope you all had a great time and we delivered the message. If you want more information, you can contact me and you can contact Kat. We will leave a summary of what we have discussed here in the description and on IFMSA-Jo channel and even the contact of Catalina and me and everyone. I really thank you, Kat. Like seriously,
Welcome.
she spent ahead of weeks. Like she went to origami and then to more to from Germany, and then she's now here, and even she's doing this webinar with us from the airport. So that's such a dedication, and really thank you for that, Katerina.
Thank you for inviting me to be
And
here. It was a pleasure, and I think yes, I think what drives me to be oh wait yeah what drives me to be doing this crazy adventure even for different countries is exactly the part that I think that students have, and that we have when we make our voices heard. So if I can get to Germany and I can talk to students and see their problems and work out solutions with them, and if I can do that, and if I can show that things actually we can improve on things, I will be always up for it. So yes, I think the email will be on the description or something. So feel free to contact me. And yeah, and Obada, please don't